Hey all, welcome to World Cup Interviews, the best place to get insight to the competitive scene of Horus Heresy Legions. My name is Varuna. I'm a member of the Brotherhood, one of the top 10 performing lodges out there. I also make guides on YouTube. Joining me today is Rubersmoon, team captain for Spain and Portugal. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How did you come up with that name?
That's actually a really long story. When I had my first console, the first video game console, it was a PS3, and I was like 10 years old, so I wasn't really allowed to get online. My father went and made the account instead, and my father didn't really know how to talk or speak or write English. So he just put together the first two words that came to his mind that looked cool in English, which were station and moon. And it's kind of a hybrid between my real name, which is Robert, and that name. That was my first nickname for a console.
Awesome. Who are your teammates and how long have you known them?
Well, my teammates are Kashuro and Tre, and very recently Tre, because he was incorporated in the last two rounds. So as for Kashuro, apparently I knew him from a long time, from when I was in the Spanish lodges, but I can't really recall who exactly he was. But I know I've dealt with his name before. And as for Tre, pretty much the same. I thought we were just meeting for the first time for the World Cup, but they told me they knew me already, so I kind of made some memory and I remember them, yeah.
What's been your experience playing card games prior to Horus Heresy Legions?
Well, I do have a lot of experience actually. So my first card game was regular cards since I was little with popular Spanish games such as Tinquillo and many others. But then I downloaded Hearthstone in a very stale school course, and I spent pretty much every class playing it until I got really good actually. So I started going more competitive in it, and when it started to die down, I looked for other alternatives such as the Elder Scrolls game and this one, for example.
How long were you playing Hearthstone for before you stopped, would you say?
From the start, well, time flies, as you may know. So I can't really say, but it was from the start of the release until the Death Knight expansion. I don't know if you know it, but I'd say 3 years, maybe.
So the three warlords you chose for the World Cup were Nikona, Ralderon, and Zahariel. Why did you choose those three?
Well, I wasn't really sure about the rules beforehand, so I was expecting to have three really strong warlocks to target something specifically, because I didn't know individual losses counted for the total score. So I had a very strong warlord like Sahariel into greedy players, but a very weak, well, at least in my opinion, into greedy players such as Nikona, so I could flex on those. But as for the tournament, I think it didn't really go well, that strategy with the individual losses rule, because now I'm losing pretty much every game on Sahariel and winning with the other two when I could be winning with the other two and not playing one more to lose on purpose with Sahariel. So yeah, not the best strategy, I say.
How are you and your team doing overall? Do you have any regrets?
Well, yes, we're doing not too hot, but not too bad either. We're optimistic on getting some 9 and O's on the next coming rounds. And yeah, I do have some regrets, like picking Sahariel, as I said earlier, which doesn't really fit on my lineup with this rule. And I don't know, I think I'm having a lot of fun. I just regret not facing even more players because that's what I'm getting the enjoyment out of this tournament. I wish I could fight more than one from each team. Let's go with that.
Who would you consider to be your rivals in the World Cup?
Well, rivals, I don't know, pretty much any team that wants to defeat me. That's a pretty good answer. But specifically, well, I'd say the players that I deal with the most outside of the World Cup, like, I don't know, Spellbreaker and Orthonaut and Rexcall. I know those guys admire me a lot. I also be beating Mercury this week, so that's pretty high up in my rivalry set right now.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned competing so far?
Well, that I really should read the rules before getting the warlord started. And yeah. So I also that sometimes a 99% lethal isn't lethal and it can backfire. And well, I think I've learned quite a few lessons on matchups specifically. But outside of that, not much else.
Which warlords have you struggled the most against in the World Cup?
Well, that's a pretty clear answer for me. Those are Corax and Horus, because those are the warlords that absolutely destroy my weak to aggro character. So I didn't really get much of a chance. And, when you've already won with the other two warlords, you're basically guaranteed to lose when the third warlord is weak to aggro warlord and some of the enemy warlords are aggro warlords. So, yeah.
I just want to point out I did an interview with Zacharias, the tournament organizer, and he pulled up the statistics for the most frequently used warlords. And believe it or not, Horus Lupercal was the number one picked warlord for the tournament. I was really baffled by that. I just thought I should share that with you.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. He knows about slinging vengeful spirits out on turn 8 every single game, so he knows his stuff.
What are your thoughts on the current balance of the game? What would you nerf or buff?
Well, honestly, I'm pretty happy with the current balance changes. In this tournament setting we're playing right now, I think it's pretty much perfect balance because, well, I don't think, I might be the only person in this world that thinks that Sisters of Silence are not overpowered because I honestly don't have any kind of trouble when I play against them on ladder or anywhere with most of my warlords. I realize that it might be because of the kind of warlords that I usually play. So, and yeah, the main offender for me is Corner's favor decks that also don't exist within the tournament. So yeah, I think that's the worst offender for me. It feels really cheap, and even if you know it's coming, sometimes you can't really do anything about it. It just really feels like very disgusting. It's also ironic that I despise especially that because I think I was one, if not the one of the first people to dabble with Cypher with Corn's favor. So it might be a little part to blame on me. But well, once I realized how disgusting it was, I never played it again. So yeah, biggest regret. Can add that to the previous answer.
Who is your favorite warlord to play, and who is the warlord you hate fighting against the most?
Well, that was, I don't know if this is a pretty common answer, pretty common question to ask to everyone, but I think I'm pretty sure on what the answer is, and it's Nikona Sarokin. It's my definitely most played warlord ever. Well, since Harasara's Legends released. So I first picked it up when previous Garo was meta, and it was only Garo as a counter to it. And suddenly I just stick with it, and it felt just like way too much fun to drop him over other worlds because there was a lot of complexity on planning on which turns you're gonna have your ability, which your secondary ability. And the warlord I hate fighting the most against, well, that changes over time. It changes on the meta, it changes on who I'm playing that season. Like, for example, a couple of seasons back, I did a only Jagataikan season, and fighting Ariman was a pain. He pretty much countered everything I tried to do just by being that warlord. And I had no issues whatsoever against Perturbable or Knights. But then I played a Pollux season, Alexis Pollux season, and I started getting wrecked by Knights. So those turned into my most hated warlord. So yeah, I think it depends for me.
What would you like to see added to the game next?
I don't know if this is a valid answer, but I don't know if you've heard that they're working on a secondary game mode or something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty interested in that because it must be something amazing to have them 3 years working on it without releasing any news whatsoever. So yeah, that must be pretty nice. And I would also like to see more involvement from the developers in the community, like answering more questions or outside of the question and answer days that happen every 3 months. So yeah, maybe if they could get more involved, and that would be a pretty big release for me, pretty big a milestone in the game.
Would you like to do a shout out to any players?
Well, yeah, wouldn't be bad. My teammates are right now shining actually because Kashura started beating everyone on a row. Didn't know he had it in him, but he really does. So hey man, well done. You are starting to carry the team now. We're gonna make it to playoffs thanks to you. And Trey too. I haven't seen much from him lately because he's only played 2 rounds, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna show up in the next ones.
Any social media accounts you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, no, that's private for me because I do have a lot of fangirls and haters. I don't want to get them into my DMs suddenly. No, but jokes aside, I'm not really big on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel, but it's not going anywhere. I have a Instagram account that I'd rather remain in secret. I could give you my telephone number, so not really. I can give you my Discord because I'm pretty much sure that everyone already knows it.
Okay. Thanks for the interview and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thanks to you too for having me here, and thanks for the wishes.